Throughout the Second World War, as the Allies and Nazis battled on various fronts, few knew what secrets were hidden in the most unexpected places. One such secret was uncovered decades after the war ended, when German archaeologists and researchers accidentally stumbled upon something that might have remained unresolved to this day. The discovery occurred in late 1944, as German forces, realizing that the war was nearing its end, began to search for new ways to strengthen their positions. Germany's strategy during this period involved the use of secret shelters and fortifications hidden in the most inconspicuous places. One such place was an old quarry in southern Germany, where, seemingly, there was nothing but empty depressions in the earth left after stone extraction. However, as often happens in history, something far more complex lay beneath the surface. In early October 1944, a group of German engineers and archaeologists, conducting work to reinforce positions, discovered several strange entrances underground. At first, they assumed these were old tunnels used for stone mining, but soon it became clear that these tunnels led to something more intricate. Several weeks of intense investigation, during which new passages were drilled and all available reconnaissance methods were employed, revealed an astonishing sight. Beneath the quarry was a vast complex, resembling a forgotten city, a bunker, or rather, a network of bunkers, constructed with incredible precision and secrecy. The complex turned out to be remarkably large, with numerous rooms, storage spaces, and even a ventilation system that remained functional after many years of being buried underground. What was particularly remarkable was that there was no mention of this place in any official documents. In fact, there was no record whatsoever of such a structure being built during the war. It became clear that the German authorities had invested enormous resources in creating this facility, but had deliberately concealed its existence, even from their own soldiers and allies. Initial investigations showed that the bunker city was not merely a refuge for soldiers, but also a storage place for strategically important equipment and materials. The ventilation, water supply, and complex system of passages allowed it to function as a self-sustaining unit, capable of surviving even under prolonged siege. However, the most shocking discovery was made in one of the distant corners of the complex. Researchers found several rooms that were clearly not intended for military purposes. Instead of weapons, fuel, or ammunition, there were ancient books, maps, and documents items that no ordinary soldier or engineer would have kept in such a place. This finding raised more questions than it answered. Thus, the initial steps to explore the complex confirmed that beneath the quarry lay not just a bunker, but a subterranean citadel, carefully planned and constructed to provide the German authorities with a self-contained base in case of emergency. But who and for what purpose had created this secret city? What secrets did it conceal? These questions would remain to be answered in the following years. German scientists and archaeologists working on site were stunned by what they found. However, despite the significance of the discovery, problems quickly arose. Access to the bunker was restricted, and any attempts to expand the investigation met with fierce resistance from high-ranking military officials. This created an atmosphere of tension and distrust. Such discoveries couldn't have been made without specific orders from the upper echelons of power. The anticipation and confusion in German scientific circles only intensified, but a decision on how to proceed was finally made. Work began to further study this unique object, but much remained hidden, shrouded in secrecy, just like the bunker city itself. As the war continued to unfold and the tide turned against Germany, the discovery of the underground city remained a closely guarded secret. The High Command was keenly aware that any public knowledge of such a place could ignite both curiosity and suspicion, potentially compromising the integrity of their military operations. Thus, the bunker's existence was treated with utmost secrecy, even among the ranks of the military engineers and scientists who had initially stumbled upon it. By early 1945, the complexity of the underground city became more apparent. The first teams of engineers, tasked with making a detailed map of the facility, reported strange anomalies in the structure. It wasn't just the size of the complex that was extraordinary, but its construction and design were unlike anything seen in the Third Reich's standard military bunkers. The walls were reinforced with an unusual combination of materials that suggested advanced engineering techniques, and the layout itself seemed too refined, almost as if it had been constructed for a purpose far beyond mere wartime survival. The deeper the teams ventured into the complex, the more they uncovered. Massive storage chambers filled with supplies that were clearly intended for long-term use. They found fuel, food, and medical equipment, all meticulously stored and organized. But there was something more. In one of the central chambers, a group of engineers came across a series of strange mechanical devices. These weren't the typical wartime technology found in other German bunkers. These devices appeared to be much older, perhaps relics from an entirely different time period. The artifacts were unlike anything the engineers had ever encountered. They had intricate designs and symbols that seemed to belong to a forgotten civilization. Some of the symbols were similar to those seen in ancient manuscripts, suggesting a connection to an older mystical tradition. It was as though the city was not just a military stronghold, but a repository for knowledge that spanned centuries, if not millennia. The German officers who had initially overseen the research into the site quickly grew uneasy. They understood that the discovery of such strange, ancient artifacts could undermine the Nazi regime's tightly controlled narrative. Adolf Hitler's obsession with Aryan supremacy and the occult was no secret, and the discovery of objects that hinted at ancient, esoteric knowledge could easily become a propaganda tool for the Allies. One officer, General Hans Richter, who had been sent to the site to oversee the excavation, became increasingly intrigued by the artifacts. He was a man with a keen interest in history and the occult, having spent years studying ancient texts and artifacts during his time in the German army. Richter was convinced that the bunker was more than just a military installation. It seemed to hold secrets far older and more profound than anything the Nazis had been searching for during the war. Richter's curiosity led him to take bold steps. Behind the backs of his superiors, he arranged for several of the most unusual artifacts to be transported to a private lab for further analysis. The results were astonishing. Some of the symbols on the devices matched those found in the ancient ruins of Egypt and Mesopotamia. Others appeared to be entirely unique, with no known equivalent in modern or ancient languages. The more he studied the artifacts, the more Richter became convinced that they held the key to unlocking an ancient, long-lost civilization's secrets. He theorized that the Germans might have stumbled upon the remnants of an advanced culture, perhaps from a time long before the rise of the ancient Greeks and Romans. As the war came to a close, and the Allies began their push into German territory, the pressure on the German military and political leadership mounted. The discovery of the underground city had become a closely guarded secret, but Richter and a handful of other officials realized that they could no longer keep it hidden for much longer. The advancing Allied forces were beginning to encircle the area, and the bunker city was now within their reach. In a desperate move to protect the site from Allied discovery, the German command ordered the immediate demolition of the entrances to the bunker. Explosives were placed at strategic points around the complex, and a final, desperate effort was made to erase all traces of the hidden city from the map. But by this time, it was too late. The Allies were already closing in on the region, and the once secret bunker city would soon be uncovered by foreign forces. Richter, now fully aware that the knowledge he had uncovered was of immense value, tried to smuggle some of the artifacts out of Germany in the final days of the war. However, the situation was chaotic, and Richter was unable to carry out his plans before the city fell into the hands of the Allies. When the bunker city was finally discovered by the Allied forces in the spring of 1945, the first impression was one of sheer disbelief. The scale of the complex was astonishing, and the objects found within it raised more questions than answers. Military experts were stunned by the level of sophistication of the underground city, and archaeologists immediately recognized the strange artifacts as something entirely unique. The findings were sent to the Allies' intelligence services, who immediately began their own investigations. But despite their efforts, the origins of the bunker city and the mysterious devices it contained remained shrouded in secrecy. What had the Nazis uncovered in the last days of the war? What purpose had this underground city served? And, perhaps most importantly, what role had ancient knowledge played in its creation? As the years passed, the bunker city faded from the public eye, overshadowed by the more immediate concerns of the post-war era. But for a select few, the discovery remained a tantalizing mystery, one that would eventually resurface in the world of archaeology and conspiracy theories. The legacy of the bunker city would continue to echo through the decades, its secrets still buried deep beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. In the years following the end of the Second World War, the discovery of the bunker city slowly faded from the public's attention. Though it was initially heralded as one of the most significant archaeological finds of the era, the turbulent political landscape of post-war Europe quickly overshadowed any curiosity about the strange underground complex. The focus shifted to rebuilding, denazification, and the onset of the Cold War, leaving little room for an investigation into an obscure German military project that had lost its relevance in the larger context of the conflict. However, for a small, secretive group of Allied scientists and intelligence officers, the bunker city remained an enigma that could not be ignored. The Allied forces had uncovered the complex and its mysterious artifacts in 1945, but due to the sensitive nature of the discovery, much of the investigation into the site was classified. The findings were distributed among a handful of experts, but all inquiries into the true purpose of the underground city were stymied by the impenetrable secrecy surrounding the German military's involvement. Among those who became deeply involved in the investigation was Dr. Harold Montgomery, an American archaeologist with a reputation for delving into the more unconventional aspects of ancient history. Montgomery was one of the few who understood the true significance of the objects found in the bunker city. Unlike many of his colleagues, who dismissed the strange devices as nothing more than peculiar wartime inventions, Montgomery saw them as pieces of a puzzle that had been hidden away for centuries. He believed that the Nazis, in their relentless pursuit of occult knowledge, had uncovered something much older, an ancient civilization that had left behind clues scattered across the globe. In 1947, Montgomery was assigned to lead a small team tasked with analyzing the artifacts and studying the bunker city in greater detail. The project was shrouded in secrecy, as many of the senior officials in the American government feared that the Soviets might attempt to gain access to the site and exploit its secrets for their own purposes. There was also the concern that the knowledge contained within the bunker might be far more dangerous than anyone had initially believed. Montgomery's first trip to the site was in the winter of 1947. He arrived at the quarry under the cover of darkness, accompanied by a team of engineers, archaeologists, and military personnel. The entrance to the bunker had been sealed after its discovery, and they had to use specialized equipment to break through the layers of rock and concrete that had been put in place to keep it hidden. The moment Montgomery stepped into the bunker, he could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. It was a place that had been lost to time, a relic of an era that had been swept away by the tides of war. The complex, still largely intact, stretched deep into the earth. As the team ventured further, they marveled at the extent of the facility, its vast chambers, narrow tunnels, and intricate ventilation system that had somehow remained functional despite being buried for so long. Dr. Montgomery was particularly drawn to one area of the bunker, a chamber that seemed to stand apart from the others. It was smaller but meticulously designed, with strange, almost otherworldly symbols carved into the stone walls. The symbols were like nothing he had ever seen before. Some appeared to be stylized representations of celestial bodies, while others resembled geometric patterns that seemed to defy logic and reason. The team carefully examined the chamber, using advanced tools to document and catalog the symbols. It was clear that this part of the complex had been built with a specific purpose in mind. But what that purpose was remained a mystery. Montgomery's team found no immediate answers, only more questions. Months passed, and Montgomery's research continued. He became increasingly convinced that the bunker was not just a military installation, but a site of much greater significance. He believed that it had been constructed by a secretive faction within the Nazi regime, one that was not interested in the conventional objectives of warfare, but in uncovering forgotten knowledge. The artifacts found within the bunker seemed to confirm his suspicions. The more they were studied, the clearer it became that the Nazis had been seeking something far beyond the reach of conventional science or technology. Among the items found in the bunker was a collection of ancient texts, written in languages that had not been used in centuries. The texts were fragmented, but Montgomery and his team managed to piece together enough of the content to begin translating them. What they discovered was startling. The text described a lost civilization, one that had advanced far beyond the technology of the time and had left behind a series of clues leading to its ultimate downfall. Montgomery's interest in the bunker city deepened as he uncovered more evidence of the hidden civilization. He began to speculate that the Nazis had discovered not just a site of military importance, but a key to unlocking the secrets of an ancient, highly advanced society, one that had existed long before the rise of the Roman Empire. The knowledge contained within the bunker, Montgomery believed, could provide the missing link to understanding the origins of human civilization. However, Montgomery's research was not without its dangers. The more he uncovered, the more he felt as though he was being watched. He began to sense that the bunker city was not merely a site of historical interest, but something more, something that was still being monitored, even years after the war had ended. His suspicions were confirmed when he discovered a series of hidden rooms within the complex, rooms that appeared to have been sealed off from the rest of the bunker. It was in these rooms that Montgomery found the most shocking evidence of all. A series of journals, written in a language that no one had ever seen before, documenting the activities of a secret group within the Nazi regime. These journals, which appeared to date back to the early 1940, revealed that the group had been studying the ancient artifacts in an effort to unlock the secrets of the lost civilization. It became clear to Montgomery that the Nazis had not stumbled upon the bunker city by accident. They had been led to it, guided by the clues left behind by the ancient civilization. But the true purpose of the bunker and the nature of the knowledge it contained remained elusive. As Montgomery and his team continued to explore the complex, the bunker city began to take on a new, almost eerie significance. The deeper they went, the more it felt as though they were uncovering not just a lost piece of history, but something far more dangerous, something that had been hidden away for a reason. And as the team ventured deeper into the heart of the bunker, they began to realize that the true mystery of the underground city was not just its origin, but what it might reveal about the future of humanity. By the summer of 1949, the discovery of the bunker city had reached a crucial point. Despite the initial secrecy surrounding the site, more and more individuals within the Allied forces became aware of the research underway. Dr. Harold Montgomery, who had led much of the investigation, began to understand the full scale of what they had uncovered. The bunker city was far more than a relic of Nazi ambition. It held the key to unlocking secrets that had been hidden for centuries. The deeper the research went, the more the bunker began to reveal. The hidden rooms Montgomery had discovered were filled with more ancient artifacts, and the enigmatic symbols within the complex became a map of sorts, a guide to a knowledge lost to time. Yet, as they uncovered more, a troubling realization began to emerge. The Nazis had not only been searching for forgotten knowledge, but had been actively trying to harness it. Montgomery, now certain that the artifacts pointed to a civilization far older than any known to history, continued his work. But he began to grow more cautious. His team had already noted several security measures built into the complex that suggested it was not just a site of historical importance, but one meant to be kept secret. And with each new discovery, the implications became more ominous. It was clear that the Nazis had been on the verge of unlocking something profound and possibly dangerous. In late 1949, Montgomery discovered a final room within the bunker, hidden behind a false wall. Inside, there was a large, intricately carved stone tablet covered in the same strange symbols that had appeared throughout the site. As Montgomery examined it, he realized that it wasn't just a decorative piece. It was a key to understanding the true purpose of the bunker. The tablet detailed a series of events that appeared to describe a ritualistic process, a means of channeling knowledge or energy, something the Nazis had likely believed would provide them with an edge in the war. But the more Montgomery studied the tablet, the more he began to question whether the knowledge contained within the bunker should ever be fully understood. The inscription spoke of a power that had been lost to humanity for thousands of years, an ancient energy that, in the wrong hands, could reshape the course of history. As Montgomery's team pieced together the translations, it became evident that the bunker's creators had intended it to be a place of great power, perhaps even one that could have altered the very course of the war if it had been fully activated. Despite his growing unease, Montgomery pushed forward with his work. He understood the potential consequences of leaving the bunker's secrets hidden, but the deeper he delved, the more it felt as though they were on the brink of uncovering something too powerful for the world to comprehend. The final discovery came in the form of a series of journals written by the secret Nazi faction that had overseen the bunker's construction. These journals confirmed that the group had been experimenting with the knowledge contained in the artifacts, trying to harness it for their own purposes. They had believed that the ancient civilization's secrets could give them not just victory in the war, but control over the very forces that governed nature itself. As Montgomery read the final entries of the journals, a chilling realization set in. The group's experiments had been increasingly erratic, and their obsession with unlocking the power of the ancient knowledge had led to catastrophic results. The last few entries described a sudden, mysterious collapse of the experiments, suggesting that the knowledge they had sought was too dangerous to wield. Montgomery understood that the bunker, while a treasure trove of historical knowledge, was also a symbol of the peril that came with unchecked ambition. The Nazis had sought to control forces they didn't fully understand, and it had cost them dearly. By 1950, Montgomery's research was concluded. The bunker city had been fully documented, but its true nature and the knowledge it contained remained shrouded in mystery. The artifacts, symbols, and journals were carefully archived and hidden away by the Allied forces. No one was quite sure what to do with them, and the implications of the discovery were too vast to be fully realized. In the end, the bunker city became a footnote in the history of the war, a forgotten chapter in the aftermath of a global conflict that had reshaped the world. But for those few who knew the full story, it remained a reminder of the dangerous pursuit of knowledge and the fine line between discovery and destruction.